Today is International Women's Day, where we celebrate the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women around the world. And this year, Forbes, in partnership with Know Your Value, has convened a new global event, bringing together women of different generations for a special mentoring summit in Abu Dhabi. Last night, we presented Hillary Clinton with the Forbes International Women's Day Lifetime Achievement Award to commemorate her leadership and influential voice on the global stage in advancing the cause of women and fighting for gender equity. I stayed back to cover Russia's invasion of Ukraine, but we were able to honor Secretary Clinton virtually, and I spoke with her about the war and the man responsible for all this brutality. We're now 13 days into the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and as we cover the story and look for solutions, the words world war keep coming up. It's hard to ignore. You know Vladimir Putin. How do you think this will end?
Oh, Mika, it's so heartbreaking to me that Putin is acting out his own insecurities, his own resentments and grievances against the people of Ukraine, waging a war against a smaller state that is totally unprovoked, as we have seen, really tells us everything we need to know about Putin. And I'm delighted and relieved that up until now, the world has really stood with Ukraine. The imposition of sanctions, the provision of assistance to the Ukrainian people, both to defend themselves, but also to receive humanitarian aid in the face of these vicious and brutal onslaughts by the Russian military. I don't know how it ends, but I think that probably the person who is most surprised that it is still going on is Vladimir Putin. The level of defense and determination that the Ukrainian people are showing, starting with their President Zelensky, going all the way down to, grandmothers and young women taking up arms for the first time to defend their families and their communities, is tragic but inspiring. And I hope that the world will stay with Ukraine while they try to protect their homeland and all that they hold dear, including freedom and democracy. So there's no real way that we can predict now, Mika, as you know so well. You're such an observer of all of this. But it's important for the world to stand with Ukraine. And the final thing I would say is sometimes in the past, now nearly 2 weeks, Americans have said, well, why should we care? Or how does it affect me? And I think if you care about freedom, if you care about democracy, if you care about the rights of individuals, if you care about our future, even though it's a war that is happening far away, it is a war that will affect what kind of world we're going to live in. And that's why I hope everybody understands why we should be supporting the Ukrainian people going forward.
You mentioned Ukrainian women. We've seen them providing medical care, carrying babies to safety, bearing arms, and fighting alongside men, facing brutality, facing death. What do you think is driving this immeasurable resilience?
Well, I think it is several things. I think, first of all, it is shock. 2 weeks ago, these people, especially these women, they were taking care of their babies. They were planning their weddings. They were going to work. They were continuing their education. And because a leader of a much larger country on their border decided that he wanted to stamp out their way of life, they are now fleeing for safety or standing up against that military force. And I think if you're fighting not for an ideology, not for a dictator, but you're fighting for your family and your home. You're fighting for your community. You're fighting for what you have grown up in, and you're fighting for your freedom. That to me is so inspiring, and it's something the world needs to understand, that when you are under such enormous danger, of course you're going to wonder, what can you possibly do in the face of tanks and aircraft and advanced weaponry? But what the Ukrainians, both their military and their people, are showing is that you can take a stand. You can take a stand for what you believe in and for your values. And you can, at least as of now, stop this evil force from just wiping you out and ending the way that you had thought about what life would be for you and future generations. So it's resilience born out of danger and pain, but it's also rooted in universal human values about what people deserve to have, rather than being forced to live by someone else's dictate, as Putin wants them to.
And just one more on this. You want the world to not turn away. Will there be the strategic cooperation and organization to get the Ukrainians what they need to take on this fight?
Well, a lot of it is going on now. I know that lethal defensive weapons are making their way into Ukraine. They need more. I want to see them get more. I've urged publicly and privately that they get more. We also are hoping that the Russians will agree to humanitarian corridors. So far, they have not, and what they've offered is unacceptable, because they frankly are corridors into Russia, which is not where Ukrainians think is safe for them. And there is a concerted effort by governments, particularly NATO governments, both to provide weapons and aid. And there is a very large and growing charitable philanthropic effort also to provide humanitarian aid. The final thing I would say, Mika, is I hope that people don't get tired of supporting the brave Ukrainians who are standing up for themselves, freedom, democracy, their rights, because this is not going to end quickly. Because the Ukrainians have taken a stand, it's going to drag on, and it's going to be incredibly brutal on the part of the Russians. And therefore, I hope people will continue to pay attention to the news coverage, understand that the Ukrainians are really, and I would argue, fighting for all of us, fighting for values that we hold dear, and not get discouraged and not turn away.
It is International Women's Day at this very serious time for the world. What's your call to action?
Well, there is a big agenda ahead of us on this International Women's Day, and all of you who are gathered in Abu Dhabi have been talking about everything from more economic opportunity for women to more educational opportunity for women, to end health inequities that particularly disadvantage women, empowering women, everything that we can think of that we would want for ourselves or our daughters or our granddaughters is something that we should be focused on, celebrating, and renewing our efforts to achieve on this International Women's Day. And I'm excited because there's a whole new generation of women who are demonstrating that they're determined to make the most of their own lives, to make contributions to others, to make a difference. And that's what I think we need to be reminded of on this International Women's Day.
And I love the message of 50 over 50, because for younger women, they have such a long runway. But speaking of that, are you open to running for president again? Oh,
no.
Come on. Just
no.
Long runway.
No, but I'm, well, No, but I am certainly going to be active in supporting women running for office and other candidates who I think should be reelected or elected, both women and men, because I think, you know, there's a big debate going on, as you know so well, Mika, in our country, but in other countries as well, about the future of democracy, of economic opportunity, of climate change, of health, and other important issues. So I will stay active in all of those debates.
We need you. Madam Secretary, I thank you. It's valuable to have your insight at a time like this. Hillary Clinton, recipient of the inaugural Forbes International Women's Day Lifetime Achievement Award. And we will have more from the Forbes Know Your Value Summit in the coming days here on Morning Joe and at knowyourvalue.com.
Hey, thanks so much for watching our YouTube channel. You can follow up on today's top stories and breaking news or catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.